Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Community. Today, I'm sitting down here with my bestie Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hey.
You're almost at co-host status.
I was just thinking this morning, I'm getting there. I'm rapidly approaching, but not there yet.
Not there yet. 2025?
Maybe
right.
26.
Wow, that's a really long time.
I'm non-committal, as you know.
Yeah, I did know that. What I was gonna say actually about that is that it's interesting because so many of the people who I think have like so much podcast success, who are the people who you like look at and they're always at the top charts and whatever. They're like on episode like 800, 900, and so it's like it puts things into perspective that like these things take time. They take reps.
Yeah, it's a long game for sure.
So anyway, I love our podcast, but I love when you're here. And we always do like a little bit of prep in terms of just like what we want to talk about most of the time. And
If I have anything to do with it, yeah.
But today what we're going to talk about is how to make the most of live events, like for when you get to go to events. So everybody I think knows this, but a huge part of me and Maria's kind of scaling has been going to live events and has been meeting amazing people. And then we always say this, we're like, we go to events, people think we're normal and then they want to give us money. Like that's always our line here. But like we like just have such a heart for the people that we get to work with. And so it's really a great opportunity for us to meet potential clients in person, but more than potential clients, like referral partners, people who we could do like business and life with. We've made some amazing friends. Like the most I would say is we've made amazing friends.
Yeah.
But we want to talk today about like how to make the most of these experiences when you're going, because we know, you don't want to be going in there treating it like a meat market, especially if you're a service-based business and you can serve those people. Like you don't want to be like, hey, you need a website. Like, that's not the vibe. And people really don't like that. We've seen it more than once.
Yeah.
But talking about how you can make the most of it for yourself, for your business, and really so it can move the needle forward for you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be chatting about this because this is definitely the way that we scaled our business, the way we grew. I would attribute like almost all of our success to it, and not all in person. Like we've done online events and things like that too, especially more mastermind style. But yeah, it's definitely a huge, huge piece of how we built our business. And then now it's cool kind of being on the other side with High Vibe Women, running our own in-person events. And just watching the type of people who are really successful and have a lot of fruitful discussions that come from those rooms. I think they do things a little bit differently than everybody else, and that's really what we're trying to cultivate with High Vibe Women is probably going to be a lot about what we talk about today and some of that advice. And where I would start, I think, which is a general theme for us always, but coming from a place of service is probably my like number one piece of advice when it comes to this. People don't like being sold to. They don't want to feel like you're using them, or you're just trying to get money out of them, or you're just trying to get a client out of them. Like, think about it from yourself. How does that feel when somebody kind of approaches you like that? It just feels like, gives you the ick a little bit. It's a little slimy. It's just not the best feeling. And so what's worked super well for us, and we just did this from a value standpoint originally, and then just accidentally realized that it was great for business, which, great for us, but also great for you too, because you can do the same. And so what we really try to do is just pour into the people we meet. So coming from a place of, instead of asking yourself, like, how can this person help me? Ask yourself, how can I help this person? And switching that narrative, I think, can be really powerful for starting the relationship off on a really strong foundation where that person actually feels like, oh, this person wants to help me. This person's here for me. They care about me. Those things really matter. And I think that's why we've actually ended up with so many friends as a result of these things, because we just pour so much into the other person and really approach it from that lens of service.
And I would say too, if you're not somebody who believes that that's like how you want to show up in business, like don't do that. Like, like that's a big piece too, is that for us, like Maria and I, like not to toot our own horns, but like that's like a huge value of ours is generosity. Like we both, like that's like why we want to make great money, is that we can be generous with others and how we can help other people build their dream lives. And so really, like even when we talk about social network, we're like, we get to market people's dreams. Like this is awesome. Like it's not really about like, oh, like, we want 500 clients and like an empire. Like it's not really about that for us. So this kind of thing, like you said, has come really naturally to us. But if you're one of those people that doesn't come naturally to, and you're like, oh, I don't really like to be generous, but not be generous, but I don't think that's a good value of my time to give people free advice. I don't really want to do connection calls. I don't really want to do those things. Don't do them. Find other ways to grow business. Run some Facebook ads. Do something else, because it's what we've done has been probably not the fastest way to scale, but really the relationship piece has been so important to us, and we're such relational people that we really made that the priority as we were growing.
Yeah, such a good point.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting too, because I think one of the things we did early on, and again, this came so naturally to us. So this is why I'm like, oh, it's so funny that we're talking about this. But firstly is that, one, we joined a mastermind, and we're kind of right when we started our business. I actually did it, and we joined a mastermind, and we invited a whole bunch of people to do these connection calls with us, where we would give people free advice. So it would be very, very intentional of hey, let's talk about social media. Let's talk about what's going on kind of for you and your business, what's working for you online, what's not working for you online, really, really just kind of moving the needle that way. And we would give people that advice from a place of service. And at the end, people would always be like, where's the pitch? And we'd be like, there is no pitch. We're really doing this because we just really want to add value. And a lot of those people turned out to be clients. Many of those people turned out to be referral partners, friends. I did a discovery call yesterday. I didn't even tell you this. I did a discovery call yesterday, and the girl was like, hey, I actually know you from this community from a few years ago. And you've just been kind of in my brain, right? So, even if people don't buy right away, it doesn't mean that people aren't thinking about you. And so really just pouring into those people has been really helpful. And I'm the queen of unsolicited advice. I love to tell people how they can do better with their marketing, what more could they do, how they can move the needle more. So that's the big thing I would say is really just trying to figure out how can you add value to these individuals, and then I think the sales will come over time. And when you're in a live event setting, it's not really only about what happens at the event, it's about the conversations after. So, something I've been so guilty of is going to an event and then my calendar's blocked for the next few weeks. That is not the best way to get the follow-up, the fortunes and the follow-up. So really keeping some days open, being let's get a call on the schedule next week and let's chat about what's going on for you. And if it turns into something, great. And if it doesn't, great. We're happy to just add value, and you have no idea what kind of referral can come from something.
Yeah, that's so good. I love the adding value. I think that definitely ties really well into the service piece. And I think if that's not really your vibe, or even if it is, another angle that I like to approach it from is just more of a personal kind of friendshipy angle. And this also might not be for everybody. So like Kristina said, do what feels right for you. But I like to just go in with that more personal approach, not necessarily talking about business right off the hop. That just feels better for me. It just feels less salesy, slimy, whatever. And then it creates that bond, right? If I have this rule where if I see a piece of clothing or an accessory or something on somebody that I love, I tell them. That's my inner little rule. And people react so well to those things, right? They love the compliments. Then maybe they have a story behind where they got the earrings or their nails or whatever it might be. And just starting on a more personal front, I feel has really helped me, especially when I'm nervous going into an event, or I feel maybe these people in the room are much more elevated than me or more successful, or I'm having that bit of imposter syndrome. I can really, I find it just so helpful to be able to bond on that more personal level and have the conversation be more casual and more fun, and then seeing where it kind of goes from there.
I love that. Well, it's easy because I think the relationship piece is so important. And just so you know, when we talk about this, we're not hey, go compliment people so that they give you business. It's really just the 101 of how do you build relationships and rapport with people and connect with them. And at live events, I was just at Powerhouse Women, which is an amazing event in Arizona, and there were 900 women there. There were people I knew there I didn't see, who they were hey, I was there. I'm no way, I did not see you there, right? So it was an incredible event, but going up to people are dressed up, there's lots going on, and saying hey, I love this. What kind of business do you have? Not being afraid to go first is another thing. Is being okay being the person to start the conversation. And you're not going to mesh with everyone, right? I was saying today to Maria, I was I had a call with someone. They didn't ask me a single question. It was a short call. And that's just it. That's okay. Fine. But it's but there's going to be people that you mesh with that you don't even expect you're going to mesh with. And that's where there's a lot of value in just asking, what are you up to? And I love something that we do at High Vibe Women, and we really learned this from Chris and Lori. But this idea of asking, what do you need right now in your business?
Yeah.
And it's not about asking them, hi, do you need social media and podcasting? But I've had people say, I actually need a Shopify designer. I'm wondering, do you know a local caterer? Do you know somebody who does this? And then we've been able to make really, really like important and impactful connections because we've just asked, and that's win-win. We're networking for our network.
Mm-hmm. And on that note of asking questions, another little tidbit I'd like to throw in there is don't be afraid to ask stupid questions. It can be so intimidating going into these events. Like I said, if you have the imposter syndrome, the nervousness, whatever it might be, it's imperative that you understand what the person you're talking to is saying. Mm-hmm. And so often I'll be somewhere and someone's like, here's what I do. And I have literally no idea what the F they are talking about. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know, like, if they said like a title, I don't know 3 of the 4 words in the title. Like, I just have no idea what it means. And that can be hard in that situation, right? Because then you're like, oh my God, am I stupid for not knowing what this means? The inner stories start to pop up. But when you just ask the person, then oftentimes I find they're actually grateful that you asked because they're like, oh, I thought, like, they're so in their own world. Oh, I thought everybody knew what this was. And it's actually helpful for them to know that, you know, they might need to provide some more education to the general public, aka you, about what they actually do and how they help people. And we see this all the time too, like even on Instagram when we see people's bios and we're like, your bio, we have no idea what you do.
Yes.
Make it simpler, you know?
And that's the case even for, like, especially for live events for yourself, too. Mm-hmm. Like, having an elevator pitch, like, I teach a college class. I teach people to give elevator pitches, so it's so funny. But, like, this is important. You need to be able to talk to people about what you do in a quick way. And the reason why is because it's, like, what do you want to be known for? Mm-hmm. So, for example, it's, like, I always use this example, but I met someone, they were like, I'm an architect, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, of buildings? And they were like, no, of courses.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, well, that person's not, like, your ideal client's not searching for a course architect, right? Like, they're not searching for these things. And even though you do a fabulous job at what you do, you want to make it very clear. So even for us, like, I don't even think of me or you, I would never call us social media managers. Like, you and I we don't do anyone's social. We don't even do our own social. Like, that's where we're at. But when people ask what we do, it's social media management, podcast management, like done for you services, right? I'm not like, oh, I'm the CEO of multi 6-figure, like in a digital marketing agency. Like, no, like it needs to be like.
People don't even know what a digital marketing agency is.
I barely know what a digital marketing agency is. Every once in a while, someone's like, oh, do you do this? I'm like, what is that? So someone asked me about, actually, they did it on the podcast, and you'll listen to this. I think it might be in my episode with Peg, but they asked like a Reddit strategy thing. And I'm like, Reddit? No, thank you. No, thank you. Right? Like, I'm staying over here on the platforms I like. But, like, this is the thing. Things are always changing. And so you need to be very clear with people, like, what it is that you do and how you do it. And really so that this way people are able to also refer you to others. Because just because somebody, like, doesn't know like what you do right now and like wants to like really buy what it is you do right now doesn't mean that they're never going to do it. It doesn't mean that like we've had people come out of the woodwork with things and say, oh, you know, I really want to do a podcast. I wasn't expecting to want to do a podcast, but now it's been 3 years and it's time, right? So you're planting seeds that aren't going to, you know, sow today, but really just like, you know, remembering that with events is that you could be meeting somebody who's going to be your business partner in 5 years.
Yeah, such a good point. I love this. And one of the pieces of advice I was thinking about is I think it's really helpful to go into an event with a very open mind about what you're going to get back from that event and what you're going to receive and how it's going to benefit your business. In so many different ways, right? You might, and I think it's okay to set intentions, but I think you can limit yourself when you're so focused on just getting one thing from an event, and then it's easy to get disappointed when you don't get that one thing. So let's say you're going to a one-day conference and you're like, I can't wait, I'm going to learn all these things, I'm going to learn how to do an email sequence, and I'm going to learn this and that, and then you go, and maybe the speakers aren't the best, or they don't really apply to your business, or you're a service-based business and they're talking about brick and mortar stuff. Like, it's not exactly what you want. It's so easy to get discouraged and like, oh, I paid all this money for this event, I'm not getting what I wanted from it. Like, what the hell? I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting my money, and like starting to go into that negative mindset. But when you open yourself up to have a really open mind around receiving anything from the event, you start to look for those possibilities a little bit more, right? So maybe you're not going to learn from the speakers and you're not going to get information, but maybe you're going to meet your business partner who's going to like, you know, help you build an empire in 5 years. Maybe you're going to meet a brand photographer who's going to, you know, take some amazing photos of you that are going to go on your new website.
Yeah.
Maybe you're going to meet a referral partner who's going to, you know, send you, like, literally it takes one person to change your business.
Big time.
And that person doesn't have to be a client. Like, we have people who have referred us so many clients that they make up a huge piece of our revenue. And so you really never know not only who you're going to meet, but what you're going to get from the event. You could also, you know, go take a bunch of content and make a really incredible reel that happens to go viral that brings you a ton of new clients. Meanwhile, you didn't learn anything from the speakers. So I just think there's so much you can actually get from in-person events. And when you open yourself up to the possibilities, you'll be surprised at how amazing the results can be.
Yeah. And that's such a good point, because I think it's so easy for us, you know, and something I've been finding a lot is that people will often say like, oh, like you go to events to get clients. And I'm like, actually, I love events. So like, I don't go for clients, but does that happen every time? Yeah. Like most of the time. And even actually, I'll tell you a funny story. We went to an event a few weeks ago, me and Jeanette. And after the event, I was a little like, oh, like, you know, did I make a lot of connections? Was there a prospective client there? Probably not. Like, truthfully, no. And it was just a total different industry than what we're used to going to events for. And the people there weren't looking for social media management or podcasts. But the payoff and the ROI from that event is so different than an ROI of anything else. Like now when I go to events, I'm actually like often I'm going for the vendors. Like I go to the vendors to go learn about them for high vibe women. Like that was never the situation before. The situation before was always like, okay, like, you know, how can we get the most out of this for like, you know, maybe clients, maybe referral partners. So you have no idea. And you're so right. It takes one person to change kind of your perspective on business. Or some, even it's like that one mic drop moment. Like I've been to events where, you know, we spent $5,000 to go to a 2-day event, and someone who isn't the facilitator said something that I'm like, oh my God, that changed my whole perspective on something.
Yeah.
And that perspective made us $100,000 that I wasn't open to before, right? So you have no idea. And so I think when you're at these events, like something to remember too is that you have no idea who's on the come up and when they're coming up. And I think our friend Marina is such a good example of this, because Marina was somebody we did a mastermind with. We were like, you know, we're all peers in this mastermind. And then a year and a half later, she's the CEO of Create and Cultivate, like goes and buys it with Jacqueline, right?
So casual.
It was so casual. But because of that opportunity of us being quite close with Marina, like that gave me the opportunity to be a mentor in her mastermind. Like that gave me has brought on so many introductions, so many clients, gotten me in like, you know, close with Jacqueline, like all these people who like a year ago I wouldn't have known, got me a bunch of investment opportunities I wouldn't have had, like so many cool things. And have we gotten clients from that? For sure. But there's way bigger payoffs that come from that. So I think when you're at these events, you have no idea who you're sitting next to and who they're going to become or who you're on the come up with. And Lori always says this, like Lori Hart always says, like, don't worry about the people on the stage, like worry about the people who you're sitting next to, because those are the people you're on the rise with. And those are the people who they're going to take you with them.
Such good advice.
Yeah.
Such good advice. And it's also a great example of like when you start with that friendship, that was our foundation with Marina. Like, of course we talked about business, but really ultimately we were friends.
Yeah.
And even those friendships can help your business, right? And not only help your business, but I find having those friendships with other business owners and entrepreneurs is super helpful for your mindset, balance, overcoming challenges. Like there are just so many different things you can get from these events and these relationships. So I think just really broadening your perspective on what that can look like, what that can be, having that open mind and going in with curiosity, dropping the imposter syndrome, being okay to be honest and ask questions when you don't know what someone's talking about. Get really clear on like your message, what you stand for, what you do. Make sure it's simple, it's understandable, and also ask for help, ask for advice. Like don't be ashamed. That is something we did very early on. If I meet someone and they tell me they know anything about Squarespace, I have 10 questions for you. Like, feel free to ask for help and give help in return.
And that's the value too, is that even if you have these people you meet at these events and you're like, hey, anytime you have questions, like, let me know. I haven't found a lot of people abuse that. Like, I haven't had a few, but like not a ton. And often what it turns into is a great opportunity for you to show your expertise so that the next time that they're looking for someone to do something, you're top of mind. Do you have any other tips?
My last tip just to make the most of going to the event is take content. I think especially coming out of such a period of isolation with the pandemic, people are really fascinated by these like come with me to this event style reels, videos, YouTube, whatever you're kind of working on for your business. I think they just make really great content pieces. So whether that's a get ready with me while you're getting ready to go to the event, a fit check, a full like come with me where you show like different clips from the event with a voiceover of what kind of went on. It's also great if you can include like new people you've met, maybe a little video of you, like a selfie kind of thing. I think it's also just a great opportunity to create really authentic, engaging content.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And I think it's cool too, like, not that you're in the season of creating FOMO, like you're not trying to create FOMO for other people, but it's more about like, you know, bringing people along with you on the journey of like all the stuff that you're doing, the people you get to connect with. And honestly, one of the things I love to do at events is if I'm at an event that feels like really aligned for me, something I will do is I will look at like who's reposting and I will go and give those people a follow. And even if I don't meet them at the event, I'll say, hey, like I was also there. So good to connect. Let me know if you want to jump on a call or whatever and just do a connection call. And connection calls are, I did a podcast episode about this, like the art of connection call where like you can get on and you just kind of chat. But it's a good opportunity for you to kind of learn about somebody else's business and see how you can support. And I think like that's also really important is that like when you're at these events, like, you know, trying to make the most of these connections that you're making, because I think too often people go to these events and then they never speak to those people again. And I actually like have I have a bit of a guilty conscience on this, but like I did a pretty high level mastermind this year and I've talked about it before. And I was also a mentor in another mastermind and then also doing like 100 other things and speaking at a bunch of events. And my high level mastermind, I don't think I maximized the relationships until the second half of the year. And I was like, if I did this again, what I would do is after that mastermind week that like where you're so intensive, you're so excited, you know, like you're so into each other, like this is so good. I would set up a call with every single person. I would email every single person and I would send them like a link and being like, hey, I'm here if you guys ever want it. And I'd love to connect and learn about how we can, because there's so much momentum there. And then you go home and you're back to your real life. You're back to like, you know, your friends, you're back to your business friends, like whatever. And you don't have the time to like get to know all these people. So I think making that really intentional effort makes a big difference.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, like you said earlier, the fortune's in the follow-up, and while you're in the energy of it, try to get that connection piece going. So I personally like to use Instagram as like my home base because it's kind of two birds with one stone where you're growing your following, you're probably getting more engagement, but it's also just an easy way to keep connected with people instead of handing them a business card or writing their email in a note and that you're never going to go back to.
Yeah.
Just hey, do you have Instagram? Can we follow each other and stay connected? And then you could even send them a DM right there, like while you're talking to them and like ask, you know, send me a few times for a coffee chat next week or whatever that looks like. But I think that's another piece is kind of bringing them to a place where you frequent and you, especially in an online social capacity, where it can benefit you in other ways is also really helpful.
Yeah, love it. Okay, well, those are our tips for how to make the most out of an event if you're going to one. We love in-person events. You know, we love High Vibe Women. Make sure you get on the wait list for our event next year in 2025. But we love to bring women together. And I just think it's just so important that we take that time, like as women, especially to go and invest in our business and invest in our network. And you know what they say, your network is your net worth. And so, yeah, just so grateful for you guys listening and for you watching. And we're just so excited about what's to come. Let us know what resonated and what you're going to try.
Thanks for having me.
Woo.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Community with me, Kristina Bartold, and I'm just so excited to continue the conversations. If you're looking to grow your community and learn more about social, join us at thesocialbusinessclub.ca and use the code podcast to get your first month for $1. Share this episode with your friends and on social, or leave a review. It means the world.